drawn. So immediately, I'm just going to pick up from where we left off. The first thing that we have point 1 at the bottom here. We have point 1 over here and point 2, and that is because the distance from the starting point was met by this white bar here, and that gave us permission to draw the very first trend line, which were the two outermost trend lines. And that is, slightly different to what I'd said earlier today, where I said actually point 1 is always the first bar. It's not the case in the very first trend line. It is the case when we move on. So I'll explain that. So the next thing that happens is that immediately as we're given permission to draw at this bar here, we draw our line and notice immediately that the ATR threshold has been met to redraw. So once that happens, we switch out point 2 and now draw the outermost point, which is going to be something like that. And I'm going to draw that now. So I have drawn the new trend line, and I want to draw your attention to point 2. The old point 2 has been struck out. It now becomes point 1. This is the new point 2. There's your trend line drawing up there, and it looks like we have a break very early on, which I'm going to zoom in now so we can take a closer look and make sure there's nothing else at play there. So as we zoom in, so once we zoom in, we have a very clean break, and by that I mean there are no issues with the bars. We have a close below the trend line and then a subsequent close below it, and that is a very clean break, and I will mark with the red vertical line there, that is where we mark the end of that trend line. I also want to draw your attention to the fact that we move pretty quickly past this redraw. It was very, very simple too. The rule number 6A1 says redrawing trend lines when either of these two events occur, and number 1, 6A1, is price moves away from the ATR threshold redraw, which is user input number 2, from the trend line by a certain amount, which it does, and we simply redraw that criteria was met. And then we move to number 7, end of a trend line. The upward trend, and I'm reading now, upward trend line ends when a bar closes below the trend line and the subsequent bar's close is below that close. And clearly that happens as illustrated in this area over here, and I will mark that. And we move on to the next reversed position. We go short and switch to the next page of rule sets.